So we're here in Adobe Animate. We've got our standard HD stage and layers and all that stuff. We haven't done anything yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, we're going to draw some shapes, turn them into symbols, and then link those symbols together using the bone tool. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with, and we haven't really talked about a lot of these shape things. So I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can edit them also. So make them be into more what you want them to look like. But I'm going to start off with just doing some simple stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab just the rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay. Now, as you know, it's a shape, and I don't think that I've mentioned this before. So if we grab it, you know that you can look at the properties and you can adjust the stroke, the color of the stroke, the fill, all that stuff over here. So you have been working in the assets panel. Now I'm in the properties panel. So I just drew a regular object, right? But I don't know if you know that if you don't click and drag and select everything together, if you grab the stroke or the fill, you can move those things completely independent of each other, and they're not together. So it's not like in Illustrator when you create a shape and you apply the stroke and the fill, and it's always together as one shape. So so for example here, like you'll see that what appears to be a solid rectangular box is actually made up of 4 different segments, which can then be removed or edited depending on how you click on it. So, and I mentioned to you at the beginning of this of using Animate. Some people love to draw and create things in Animate, specifically because of that, because of being able to do these kind of things. So again, I can select it all and it still treats it as one shape, where I can adjust the stroke and all that kind of stuff. If I grab each individual piece, I could adjust the stroke size of each individual piece. And so, I mean, that can be helpful if you're making shapes or whatever. You can change the style of it. If you wanted to make it, it's not going to show up well till I make it smaller, but that's a dash or a line, things like that. So I'm going to go back to here. And now that we've drawn this shape, I'm going to go ahead and take it and I'm going to modify it, convert it to a symbol. So when I convert it to a symbol, we're just going to make it a graphic, and I'm going to call it a link. And I'm going to put the registration here at the center, which I know that that's what we usually do. So I'm going to say, okay. Now, one thing that I can do is I can move this over here. Now let's look in the library, and you'll see that we have the link in the library. So I can put another one here, and line them up, something like this. And what I'm going to want to do is link them together using the bone tool. Now, you probably won't have the bone tool in your toolbar. And so remember that if you're missing a tool off the toolbar that I'm talking about and you don't have it, all you have to do is hit the 3 dots at the bottom, and then that opens up your tools. And you'll see that I've got most of my tools on there. But the bone tool would be right here, and I would just drag and drop it onto my toolbar, and then it's there. So Paula's coming back in. So anyways, I don't need to do that. So I'm going to grab my bone tool. Now, I have nothing selected right now. So I'm going to grab my bone tool and I'm going to click on this item. So I have in essence selected this item. So I'm going to go from my center registration point to here to the next link. And so I'm going to stop right there. I clicked and dragged and let go. So again, I clicked with the bone tool. I dragged. I mean, I can go all over the place. And you'll see that right now it's really small on your screen, I'm sure, but there's a little no symbol, the little Ghostbusters thing. That means I can't do anything. And I'm going to move it around, and then it kind of magnetically goes to the next one. Still has the no symbol, but then when I'm on the other point, it lets me do it. So now I'm going to grab my select tool, and let's see what I've done with this bone selection thing. So I can move it, and now they're linked together. Now, the interesting thing is, because the center point of the bone, is in the middle of the first rectangle, you get some kind of weird stuff. So anyways, now I'm going to grab my bone tool, and I'm going to click on that last point and drag. And depending on your settings, it's going to magnetically want to be attracted to like this center point. So you can almost see that it pops over, but it's still not doing anything. It still has the slash, the no symbol. So, and it's attracted to the end, still has nothing. But when I move to the next one, the no symbol disappears and I can let go. And so let's see what happens now. If I, using my selection tool, if I grab this here at the end, so I can move it and do some stuff. Now that means that if I come here into the armature layer, it's going to be called an armature because that's what we're making. If you guys have ever watched the making of things like The Nightmare Before Christmas, or is it the Fabulous Mr. Fox or Fantastic Mr. Fox? It's stop motion animation. And so what they do is they create a wire armature or a mechanical armature, and on top of that they place clay or whatever, clothing, and then they move that armature. And that's why here it is called an armature. So that means the keyframe 1 of the armature it looks like this. And then in keyframe 25, I'm going to make a keyframe and I'm going to position this armature like that. And that means that it's going to move like this. So, and that's really all there is to it in essence in making these things. Now, the other thing that we can do is just like your, so I'm going to actually undo that, adding a keyframe. So just like when we selected the different properties of the box that I was drawing, each of these bone tool points have properties as well. So for example, if I click in here on this bone tool point, on this edit point, we can see that I've got some options here. So that object, and tells me it's the bone tool, and it tells me where it is, the size, and all that kind of stuff. You've got right here under joint. So this is a joint. You've got the rotation. You can either have the rotation on or off. Right now my rotation is on. So I'm going to turn it off, and then let's see what happens. So that joint is still there, but it is off. It's not letting me move it. And you say, well, why would I want to do it that way? Well, when you're creating a character, you might create the hips, right? The hips, the torso and everything. And all these things are going to be connected together, but you might not necessarily want the point like here on the character to move. Or maybe you do want it to move, but you don't want it to move a lot. So I'm going to come back here and select it. And so I can turn on my joint rotation, but I can constrain it. And I can say it can only go, and I'm going to use small numbers just so we can kind of see. Let's go to -5 degrees and then 5 degrees. So now you can see that it's only moving a little bit there. So we can make that joint have just a little bit. And where might you want to do that? Well, for example, if this was your shoulder, your upper arm, lower arm, and then your hand, your hand normally can't do this. Your hand normally can't spin 360 degrees. So maybe you would want to take that hand and constrain it to be only 45 degrees. Or no, let's say 45 degrees. -45 and +45. And so now when we try to move it, it should, oh, maybe I didn't have the right one selected, joint rotation. But anyways, we can constrain it. So that's where you would want to do it. So what I want you guys to do, and I'm going to stay right here on the screen, and let me know, you can have you can have Animate open, right? basically, I want you guys to step out of what you're doing, like this call. I mean, stop with the call, go to animate, make a shape, make a couple of them, and link them together. So I'm going to show you that again right now, and then I'll give you like 10 minutes to try it, and then we'll come back and see the next thing. So if you think you can do it, or if you want to go ahead and get started, you can go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to do the demo one more time. So again, I'm going to create a shape, and I'm going to select that shape, and I'm going to get it the way I want it to look. And then I can take this shape and go modify, convert to symbol. And then this time I'm going to, instead of having it registered off the center, I'm going to register it off the left side, or no, the bottom. Let's register it off the bottom. So there's my symbol. And that means I can go to my library and I can bring, I didn't name it, it's just called symbol 1. I can move this in here. And by the way, they don't have to be touching. So I can do that. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to align them to the center and move them up. And now that I have my bone tool, I'm going to go from here. Now, earlier, I did go from the center point. I went from here, but now I don't want to go from the center point. I want to go from the end. So I'm going to go from here to here, and then from here to here. And of course, if I'm trying to do like a ticking clock thing, I might want to take this point, let me undo that, and go to my properties and turn off the joint rotation. And so now if I come here, it's just going to swing back and forth like a pendulum. And again, to make this animation work, I come to my armature, that's my keyframe, and I come here to my, let's make it short, frame 10, and I'm going to go this way, then frame 15, I'm going to go this way, and then frame whatever 18, it's going to go this way. And so now if I play that, it's going to do that. All right, so what I have done here is I have built a very, very simple figure, and I'm going to show you, and this is what you're going to be doing next. Basically, in this keyframe, this figure looks like this, and in this keyframe, the figure looks like this. Okay, so and when you animate it, it does that. Yay. Okay, and then if I wanted to, just like in the demo with the waving person, I can hold down the control key, click on frame 1, and say, and then let's see, I went 50, but I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to insert a keyframe at 85, and I'm going to say paste pose. So ideally, what's going to happen is if we loop it, I have to, and hopefully you saw that in my video, I zoomed in on this stuff so you could see a little better how you can open up your looping area. So there we go, up and down. Totally boring, but it works. Remember, if you showed this to somebody in like 1653, they would burn you at the stake for being a witch. That's how amazing it is what we're doing. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new document, and I'm going to create it. And I don't want you to make this mistake. I don't want you to try to draw, because I do want you to draw a very simple figure, but I don't want you to do this. Like try to put all these parts together at once. Because if you do, remember what I just showed you at the beginning. These are now no longer separate discrete elements, and I can't do a thing with them. Okay, so you have to be thinking in terms of, and again, keep it simple. I'm going to do a head. I'm going to do the body. I'm going to do the hips. I'm going to do an arm. If you wanted to go crazy, you could do an upper arm and a lower arm and a hand. And then I'm going to do the upper leg, lower leg, and a foot if you want to. So I've drawn all these separate shapes, and now I have to turn them all into symbols, but I have to do it individually. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to select it and go modify, convert to symbol. I'm going to call it the head. I'm going to modify, convert to symbol. I'm going to make this the body. And it is important that you name this stuff. It can't just be like hot jank one. You know, you need to know what these things are. So I'm going to say modify, convert to symbol, hips. And I'm not going to say they don't lie. They probably do. And I think this is supposed to be my upper arm, right? So I'm going to go modify, convert to symbol, upper arm. And this is going to be my lower arm. And I'm doing this in real time so you guys can get an idea of what you're going to be doing. And then this is going to be my modify, convert to symbol hand. Convert to symbol upper leg, also known as the thigh. Oh, I might have messed up here. I'm a little close. So if I'm close, like if I try to grab this and it doesn't work, I can zoom in, or over here, just like in Photoshop or Illustrator, I can use the lasso tool and I can grab this and I can call this the foot. And I'm going to use the lasso tool to grab this one. Of course, since that other thing is a symbol already, I can just move it out of the way. But I like to make things difficult for myself. So convert to symbol, lower leg. Also known as your calves, right? So anyways, I have all these pieces, so let's assemble them. They're all symbols. I don't have to delete them and drag them back in because, you know, they're symbols already. So I'm going to put this head and the hips. I'm going to go ahead and align them over here, align them, center them. I'm going to assemble this arm. And I'm going to take all these pieces and I'm going to align them. And I'm going to assemble this leg, and I'm only going to align these two pieces because I want the foot to be like out here. Okay, so now I can move this over here. I can move this arm over here. Wow, monkey arms. I might have to shrink this up a little bit. Still a little beefy, but whatever. And of course I can rotate it. I can move it out. I could probably move it in like this, but let's just pretend this guy is swole. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. Move this over here. I guess that's too far in. And then this leg, I'm going to select these and I'm going to go copy and paste because all I really have to do is move this foot over to here. And put this leg right here. Now, here's the issue. We need to try to build this and create that figure. So I'm going to use my my hips as the starting point for everything. So I'm going to grab my bone tool. I'm going to go from the hip here to, and you'll notice I can stop here in the center because remember, the registration point for the chest is in the center when I drew it. So now I'm going to go up to the head, and then I'm going to branch off to the shoulder here. And you don't have to do this in order because all that matters is that you're connecting them. So now my shoulders are done. I can go from my shoulder to here, and then from my forearm to here. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Anyways, from there to there to there. I'm going to pull off to here to give me that. Is somebody trying to call me or okay? Whoops. So, and if you can follow along, I mean, and of course I'm going to make this a video so that you can have it. So I'm just going from the hips to here, and I'm going to go to the foot to that. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. And then go from here to here. And I think that's got everything. So we can test to see if it's got everything, but remember, we're gonna have to do a couple of things. Maybe if I zoom in, this will help, I don't know. Go to 200%. So I've got this guy, and we're gonna have to adjust some of these points, and I'll show you why. So now that I have my selection tool, I've built my skeleton. So hopefully you guys can see that. I'll do a screen grab just in case. So I can move like the head, right? I can move the arms, but watch what's going to happen because I haven't constrained any of these points yet. So if I move the arm out, the arm is dropping. It's moving, but the arm is dropping out. So we know that we need to do something with that shoulder joint. And the same thing with the leg. Usually your leg does not drop out of its socket when you're moving. So a couple of these joints, and let's take a look at the body real quick. If I tried to move the upper body, whoops. We got some crazy stuff going on. And even if you guys can't see, I'll just freeze it at like a bad point, and you can kind of see that is not good. So we need to either freeze or constrain some of these points. And we're going to do that by, let's start off with the shoulders. I'm going to select that shoulder joint, and I'm going to come to properties, and I'm going to completely turn off the joint rotation. And now when I go to move it, whoops, wrong one. I don't want to do that. I'm going to come to the center point here, the body, and I'm going to turn off the joint rotation. And up here, I want to constrain, I want the joint rotation on, but I'm going to constrain it. So let's see what that looks like. There we go. Now it works. Now I know the arm is not connected to the body, but I'm fine with that. So I'm going to come down here, move this back into place. I'm going to select this shoulder joint, and I'm going to constrain it. And let's test it. So that's working. Then this joint, the hips, I'm going to need to constrain it. And that lets me, because you may want to bend over or whatever. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Let's test it. If I turn off the joint rotation, what happens? Not good. So I want to make sure, let's see. I don't want to turn it off. I want to constrain it. And I can adjust the degrees and everything. So the bottom line is, now I've got my figure and it's built. And there's my foot. I can tap my foot. So basically what I want to do is I'm just going to go to these different frames, like frame 25, insert, timeline, keyframe, or use the button down here. And I'm going to move this foot up and position this arm. By the way, it's going to be frustrating when you're working with this until you get the hang of it. I don't know what motion I'm trying to do. I'm just making keyframes to play with it. And I'm sorry for those of you that this is laggy. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and try to preview the movie. There it is. It's just moving. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. And I'm going to stop the share.